Guilty of massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation as a part of a propaganda campaign.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has directed federal prosecutors to launch a grand jury investigation into members of the Obama administration over the 2016 Russia investigation.
A lot of them are guilty of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that are in that White House press conference, a lot of the organizations they work for, distributed absolute lies.
Total lies.
Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents that she says shows Obama administration officials manufactured intelligence to make it look like Russia interfered in the 2016 election.
How many of them during the whole Russiagate thing?
Some people think that the Russia thing was real.
Yeah, still.
I mean, the whole Steele dossier where it was completely concocted.
Funded by the Clinton campaign.
Correct.
What if the man who was once praised as the coolest president in history wasn't really leading at all, but performing? What if the carefully crafted speeches, the cinematic pauses, and even the image of hope itself were nothing more than a staged production? That's the
Volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto.
explosive claim Joe Rogan is ripping into, exposing Barack Obama not as a statesman, but as a master illusionist who turned the White House into his biggest stage. And the evidence being thrown around right now isn't just about politics. It's about treason, misinformation, and the
Here in the United States, countless publications provoke offense. Like me, the majority of Americans are Christian, and yet we do not ban blasphemy against our most sacred beliefs.
He doesn't give they're
That's
just
a flat
going
out
for
goddamn.
it.
As president of our country and commander-in-chief of our military, I accept that people are going to call me awful things every day, and I will always defend their right to do so.
Flat out lie.
Efforts to restrict speech can quickly become a tool to silence critics and oppress minorities. We do so because, given the power of faith in our lives, the strongest weapon against hateful speech,
the possibility that America's faith in democracy was manipulated by design. Attorney General Pam Bondi has reportedly directed federal prosecutors to launch a grand jury investigation into members of the Obama administration over the 2016 Russia probe. The accusation? That they were guilty of distributing massive amounts of misinformation and disinformation as part of a propaganda campaign. According to leaked documents, many of the figures
Accusation, they're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact.
tied to that infamous press conference were knowingly spreading lies. Absolute lies. And it gets darker. Tulsi Gabbard has publicly claimed that declassified documents show Obama-era officials manufactured intelligence to make it look like Russia interfered in the 2016 election. If that's true, it doesn't just mean a political scandal. It means there was an orchestrated effort to deceive the American people, rewrite history, and tilt the balance of power.
Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter. And
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're gonna do something and then you get into office and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump.
the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
The thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
when he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise. Gold sneakers, $100,000 watch. Why are you selling a watch? What are you doing?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. We've gotten numb to
in Washington. Think about it. The entire Steele dossier, once treated as gospel by the media, was later revealed to be a concoction tied directly to the Clinton campaign. Yet millions still believe Russiagate was real. Millions still cling to the myth. Why? Because the performance was flawless. This is where Joe Rogan steps in with his trademark brutal honesty. He doesn't see Obama as the flawless, smooth-talking leader millions adored. He sees a man who mastered the art of turning politics into theater.
Must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history.
But yet promoted this idea.
James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years.
And then there's been some incredible clips of all these different news reporters, CNN and MSNBC, just saying over and over and over again, clear evidence of Russian collusion.
Rogan calls it for what it is: performance art in a suit. Every gesture, every pause, every speech that once felt historic, Rogan dismantles piece by piece. He argues that Obama didn't just speak, he orchestrated. The lowered voice, the slight lift of the chin, the flawless rhythm, it wasn't leadership, it was acting. A carefully choreographed image designed to hypnotize a nation. And if you think Rogan's just being hard.
The policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and drone strikes and all the other that happened during that administration, and the coup in Russia, and there's a lot that's, from a foreign policy perspective, that's very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues that came about during his administration, largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what George.
Harsh, consider Obama's own words. In one interview, Obama openly admitted that if he could have arranged for a stand-in, a front man with an earpiece, he'd gladly sit back in his sweats, deliver the lines, and let someone else handle the ceremony. Does that sound like a man obsessed with leading or obsessed with staging the perfect performance? Even more shocking, reports now claim Obama wasn't actually signing many of those executive orders himself. Some insiders allege it was AutoPen, not Obama's.
Is what Obama said on the same video, there is what Trump actually said. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. And he's talking about George Washington. He said George Washington had slaves. Let's play it.
On both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down a very, very important statue from Robert E. Lee to another name. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Excuse me, how about Thomas Jefferson? Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned.
If that's true, who was really in charge? Behind the spotlight, behind the cinematic speeches, Joe Rogan insists the reality was far less glamorous. A politician who played the same game as everyone else, only with better lighting and better marketing. Obama became less of a leader and more of a brand ambassador, a performer selling hope like a product, while critics say the real decisions were being made elsewhere.
The 2011 thing where Obama allowed people to use propaganda against United States citizens.
Hillary Clinton is and has been an outstanding public servant.
What was done then under Obama, effective repeal of it, was called the Smith Modernization Act.
She was a great Secretary of State for me.
At the time, the media and media control was seen as the linchpin crux of winning the Cold War. Piping in pro-U.S. media influence.
Policy of my administration is to encourage transparency. Why my emails, the BlackBerry that I carry around, all those records are available.
Congress recognized the Frankensteinian monster they were creating by authorizing a covert, permanent Department of Dirty Tricks, and this is their phrase, not mine.
Hillary has instructed those emails that had to do with official business need to be disclosed.
To infiltrate and co-opt the universities, the unions, the media, the politicians, the judges, the whole swarm.
And that's just the beginning. Because what Rogan exposes next about Obama's carefully managed image and the accusations of a sedition-level conspiracy shakes the very foundation of what Americans thought they knew. Stay right here, because in part 2, we dive into the cult of personality surrounding Obama and why Joe Rogan believes charisma isn't policy and charm doesn't solve problems. The myth of Barack Obama.
It's amazing. He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Watch this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
it's
that.
It's 100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready.
Obama wasn't just built on policies. It was built on charisma. For more than a decade, millions saw him not just as a president, but as a symbol of hope, a cultural icon, even a celebrity. And that's exactly where Joe Rogan digs deepest. Because when you peel back the charm, the pauses, and the picture-perfect speeches, what's left isn't a savior, it's a salesman. Rogan describes Obama's presence as cinematic.
Candid conversations with Tulsi Gabbard about what it was like.
It's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal.
She's a person, tries to be friends with everybody, tries to reach across the aisle. She's got that whole aloha.
A man who could walk into a room, loosen his tie, lower his voice, and convince people the economy would fix itself. He didn't just talk, he orchestrated. The speeches weren't conversations, they were performances. Carefully crafted monologues designed to make everyone feel like they were being seen, when in reality they were being sold an image. The cult of personality around Obama grew so strong that even now, years later, millions still defend him as if he were beyond criticism. To them, he was the philosopher president, the cool dad, the unifier. But Rogan tears into that image, pointing out how Obama could deliver hours of talk about change and progress without actually saying anything controversial. It was a balancing act, a tightrope walk that kept...
Crazy, like when Obama was president, worst they could get on him was, remember when he wore that tan suit?
Why did you take issue with the suit?
Because you know the image makers in the White House. Here's a president coming out at such a serious moment where he should be addressing the country on such a serious matter, and he looked like he was on his way to a party at the Hamptons.
He never had a single moment publicly where he stumbled, where he said something really stupid.
If she could continue to sit on a panel that claims to hold others accountable, while her own family is caught up in a federal investigation. The internet loves drama, but this wasn't just drama. It was real life colliding with celebrity culture. And Joe Rogan knew exactly how to capitalize on that moment, keeping his audience hooked with every sarcastic remark. But the real question still lingers in the air. Is this just the beginning of Sunny Hostin's downfall? Or is there an even darker revelation waiting to explode? The silence in the studio was deafening. You could almost feel the tension reaching through the screen, pulling the audience into this whirlwind of drama. Joe Rogan, leaning back in his chair, let out a half smirk, half sigh before he spoke the words that instantly went viral. This isn't just a scandal. This is a wake-up call. And with that, the entire internet seemed to explode. Clip. After clip of his commentary spread like wildfire across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. But what made it hit so hard? It wasn't just the RICO fraud charges. It wasn't even Sunny Hostin's name attached to the case. It was the way Rogan framed it, as something bigger than one family's downfall. He made it about corruption, about public trust, about how easily the people who lecture others can end up expose themselves. By now, hashtags like Jan Hostin Scandal, Josh Rogan Unfiltered, and RICO Fraud were trending simultaneously. Memes flooded Twitter. Some mocked the situation, others dissected every detail of the charges, and some openly wondered if this would force Sunny to leave The View for good. Behind the scenes, ABC executives were reportedly in full crisis mode. Sponsors were uneasy, producers were scrambling, and social media teams were desperately trying to spin the narrative. But the truth? The damage was already done. Once Joe Rogan injected his signature sarcasm and unapologetic honesty into the story, it became bigger than any PR team could contain. And that's where the story reaches its climax. Because here's the twist no one saw coming. Court insiders revealed that more names might surface in the indictment. People close to Sunny's husband allegedly had their own shady dealings, and if those names dropped, the scandal would expand into something far messier than anyone anticipated. The question now wasn't just whether Sunny Hostin could survive the humiliation. It was whether this entire situation could drag others into the spotlight. And in today's digital age, one slip, one leak, one soundbite can destroy careers overnight. Rogan ended his segment with words that cut sharper than any headline. If you think this story ends here, you're crazy. This is just the beginning. And that's exactly why viewers couldn't look away. So now the ball is in your court. Do you believe this scandal is going to unravel deeper layers of corruption and take down more names? Or will Sunny manage to shield herself and her career from the fallout? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And if you thought this story was explosive, trust me, the next one we're covering will shake the internet even harder. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because the truth always finds its way to the surface.